Are you ready for UFC 307 this weekend? Are you sure you're ready? Because it's going down in Salt Lake City this weekend, and you can get in on all the action with my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, all new customers who bet $5 can get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up using my promo code SONNEN. DraftKings, the crown is yours. That's $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. You can use your $200 in bonus bets to stay in on all the action. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun at DraftKings Daily Fantasy for a shot at winning cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers, use my promo code SONNEN. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Right now, that's promo code SONNEN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Pereira is going to be fighting Ankalaev for the World Championship. If Pereira is to beat Roundtree, then Ankalaev is to beat his next opponent, which I think is a very difficult match in Raychik. Now, that's what we're led to believe. That's what we're being told. And it's what you guys want, right? I mean, it needs to happen. You want it for the integrity of the sport. It's what needs to happen. We can't call Pereira great until he beats this guy. And it appears that he's staying away from this guy. Like, that fight has to happen. Isn't that what we're hearing? Isn't that what a lot of people are saying? So the UFC's gone as far as to say that should Pereira beat Roundtree and should Ankalaev beat Raychik, then those two will fight each other. And I chose to word it that way. Instead of saying they're in the semifinals and the winners will fight the winners, it's not actually what the UFC said. That's just how we interpreted it. They said if Pereira wins and if Ankalaev is to win, then they'll get each other together. But it's not quite what you guys think. And I don't believe that the UFC's back is against the proverbial wall in the point that they must do this, that the integrity of the sport, of the rankings of the division, I don't quite see it that way. I know that narrative's out there, but stay with me on this. People love to dismiss MMA math, and they love to say MMA math doesn't work. MMA math works all the time. There's not a ton of metrics that we have. You can read resumes all day and think which one sounds nicer, but there is nothing more effective than head-to-head competition followed by common opponent. And I tell you that because there is a real belief that Ankalaev would beat Pereira. As a matter of fact, DraftKings came out with a mythical odd and they put Ankalaev in front of Pereira. In fact, they put up five matches, 4 other ones against Pereira. He was the favorite in all of them except Ankalaev. That's the Boogie Monster. That's the guy. That's the guy that's being kept back. That's the guy that's telling me, but until you remind people of the common opponent in Jan Blachowicz. No matter how wildly close these matches were, Pereira beat Jan Blachowicz. Ankalaev did not. So that appears to be forgotten. And I do even feel as I bring that to you right now, you go, wow. Or you will go back to the really old idea of 1993, which is we have proven that the grappler beats the striker. I then kind of got to splash some cold water in your face and remind you that Ankalaev's not a grappler. And that one confuses people too. Like, there's very few of those Dagestani guys that come out with anything. Like, we just do MMA and this is what we did. But if you actually talk to Ankalaev, he will tell you, first off, he's a striker. Thank goodness he's with the Dagestani team so that he could learn all of his grappling. And his grappling is certainly impressive. I'm just correcting so that you do understand exactly what you're saying. Like, it could be a really helpful thing. Perception being reality, never proven at anything in life more than this sport. Whoever looks the toughest, he is. But if you got to look closer, at some point that has to be supported with some facts and ideas. And to defeat a style is a really big deal. If you want to talk about the way you're observed or you want to talk about legacy, it's a big deal. Let me bring Israel Adesanya into this. But that is a tall, skinny kickboxer from New Zealand. As many wonderful things and as many times as lightning has struck, he can't deal with an Olympic wrestling medalist from Cuba, right? He did. And that closed the conversation on can Adesanya deal with the wrestler. Of course, I'm talking about Yoel Romero, but that closed the conversation forever. Like your ability to go, well, this guy's a great wrestler, he's just going to go take him down. Like you lose that when Adesanya, and it wasn't defeating Yoel Romero, it was defeating that style. So when I hear the argument that Ankalaev is the kryptonite for Pereira, by the way, I just want the argument to be said right. First off, they have a common opponent. One beat him, one didn't. Don't think you need to leave me a comment and tell me about a draw. I'm still saying it right. One beat him and one didn't. And the idea that you've got this dominant wrestler, or that somewhere Pereira and kickboxing will have this massive credit of being one of the very few. And that elite very few, just like Maurice Smith when he did it to Mark Coleman, he's not really beating a dominant wrestler. It just isn't an accurate part of the story. I do think Ankalaev's next. I do think that Ankalaev's awesome. I understand why Ankalaev would be the only one to be favored over Pereira. Like, I'm not actually speaking against that match. I'm speaking about the narrative surrounding why it must be that match. We're in a promotion, guys. Now, that word has been corrupted, and it's to the point that when you hear it, I feel as though you forget what it means. And a promotion only goes one way, right? You are not being promoted going this way. Can we agree? You're not being promoted running sideways. Can we agree just by definition? So once you make the main event, there's nowhere to go. So you bring a title in. That's a bigger deal. Okay, great. You've combined two things. You combine title and main event. Boom. Great. Pereira, the biggest draw, saved the company, volunteered for 300, the only champion to publicly do it, volunteered to take on Tom Aspinall in a different weight class to save 300, the only champion to do it, and he meant it, does the same trick on June 29th of International Fight Weekend when Conor McGregor stubs his pinky toe, and he did it against the one guy no one wants to fight, which isn't just Yuri Prohaska. It's the guy that was a hard fight and you already beat him. That's the guy nobody wants to fight. You get a guy in the rear view, leave him there. Pereira did it. So now Pereira has a new challenge, right? If you ever want to discuss who the biggest star in the sport is, it's a real easy thing to do. You're going to look at who's licensed, and then you're going to come down to the numbers, and it's going to be between O'Malley and Pereira. And if you go look at straight numbers of who accomplished what, it leans towards O'Malley. But when you do look at numbers, shelf life matters, and if we're taking O'Malley at his word, and he could be out for up to 12 months, and Pereira's going to remain busy, right? You got the top star. He's watery too, but think about how big he is. Think about how big and how meaningful he is. He's the main event. Can't go anywhere else. Now he's got the title. And the main event. And you're telling me in a promotion, you're going to take a guy that's not main event. You're going to take a guy who's never main evented. And all he has to do is win his next fight, and he gets to go into the main event for the world title. And your reasoning for that isn't just the rankings. It's the style. It's the fact that one's being protected, they're being kept apart from each other. And then you get confronted with, no, his style, even if you ask him, is not wrestling. Oh, and by the way, keep them apart from each other. They have a common opponent, and it wasn't an easy one. It was a world champion named Jan Blachowicz. Like, I'm not sold on the idea. The number one thing that does make me believe it and see it, and there's not another 205-pounder out there making an argument. There's not another 205-pounder out there that isn't just standing back and saying, yeah, go right on ahead. And when you stand back and everybody stands back quietly saying the same thing, which is absolutely nothing, you decide and we'll do what you want. You don't mean that. You don't want them to decide. You don't want to do what they want. But when you choose to make that your stance, that is how a guy that has not fought on a pay-per-view main card ever that I'm aware and is ranked number 8, which is the lowest we have ever gone to in the modern era by choice, outside of illness or injury, Khalil Roundtree comes in and takes the spot. That's just the reality. It's not a knock on Khalil. It most certainly is not a knock on Ankalaev. But it's the idea that you believe our biggest star, who can't go any higher, he's already the headliner of the 2 biggest events of the year, 300 International Fight Weekend. He's already done that. And so now we're going to put him in a position where to bring all that star power and bring everything against an unknown opponent. That's what we're doing this Saturday. Oh, and by the way, his reward, if he wins, is that we're going to do it to him again. You're going to bring him a non-main eventer and a non-champion, and we're just supposed to look at records and say that's great and that's interesting. We will, if no 205-pounder says anything. That's true. But as far as the idea that that has to happen and it's the only reasonable thing, when the background that one guy brings isn't the one you keep saying, at least not if you asked him directly, and common opponents have already been matched. Michael Jordan was the one athlete you could get people to tune in for just for his greatness. And in combat sports, there's only been two. Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather. And I think that needs amended to add Conor McGregor. But in a broad stroke, right, it's something that you really do need both sides. And I will admit that Pereira is the biggest. I think Pereira can do a lot of work on his own, but I haven't actually seen it. He's always been matched up very appropriately with a guy that will match him also within the press, and now he's got to go out and do one he wasn't expected. And the reward for doing that is he's going to get asked to do it again. Let's see what happens. And you do what you want with that information. But that is the first time you've been given the correct information.